We keep picking stinkers, man. It's hard out here. So cheesy and like almost laughable. Kind of impressively unsuccessful. Didn't really care for it. I feel like I have to gird my loins. We can't believe you're alive, thank God. Cause it's bad. Let's keep this rig rolling. Hi. I'm Sam. There's quite literally no one asking me to do this, but I would like to tell you about the 10 worst books I read in 2025. Now I will give my disclaimer that I give every year when I make this video. If you loved and enjoyed these books, please do not take me roasting them as a personal attack. I do not mean anything against you personally or your reading taste. These books just did not jive with me and I didn't like them. If you liked them, I love that. I love that for you. It was not the journey for me. So with that, I'm going to get into the 10 worst books I read this year. They are ranked, so 10 is the least offensive, and number 1 is the one that I think is the worst thing I read this year. Number 10 is The Unworthy by Agustina Bazterrica, translated by Sarah Moses. I really loved Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica, so I had pretty high hopes for The Unworthy, and while the writing was pretty good, I just feel like it was very inconsequential and very unmemorable. I couldn't even really remember what this book was about, apart from it being religious flavored, so I had to look up the synopsis to kind of refresh my memory. Really, this is just about a woman in this kind of like suffocating convent, and it almost seems like she's imprisoned there, but as you read more, it becomes clear that this is sort of dystopian, post-apocalyptic, and the people who are residing there believe that they're safe within the convent. But then really what kicks the plot off, or I guess what the synopsis claims kicks the plot off, is an outsider comes to the convent and joins the convent and becomes one of the unworthy. And our narrator starts a love affair with this woman. And yeah, I don't know. It just felt very inconsequential. The writing was such that it's like I read it and it like went into my brain and immediately left. I guess that's sort of the definition of not being memorable. Next is The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. This was for book club. As I've said before, my book club that I have with my in real life friends and family is kind of impressively unsuccessful in that we dislike the majority of what we read. I think we all just have such different reading taste and we're really trying to make it work and it just doesn't work. So all I have to say, basically every time I read something for this book club, I feel like I have to gird my loins because I'm just anticipating that I won't like it. And unfortunately that was the case with this as well. And I'm even saying that about my own picks as well, because I don't know, I just feel like our book club is kind of cursed. So obviously based on the title, I was like, all right, this is gonna be a murder mystery. It has the word murder in the title. But I was sort of heartened by the fact that this is actually taking place in a post-apocalyptic setting, and I thought that was really fresh and new. I've never read a murder mystery in that setting. So at first I was like, oh, okay, like maybe this actually won't be that bad. And for a while I had hope. And then I quickly learned that it's never safe to have hope when you read these kinds of books. Basically on this island, it's sort of vague what year it is, but it is implied that it's somewhere in the future. We have the villagers and then a few elders. The elders are really highly revered in the village. We're following sometimes the villagers, sometimes the elders. But then the murder mystery really kicks off when one of the elders is found dead. The death of this elder triggers the lowering of the security system around the island. So now the deadly fog that has been kept at bay is slowly encroaching. And that basically gives like a time limit for we have to solve the mystery. I think it was like within 72 hours or it was within days. But there's also this narrative device where the security system on the island is also this sort of like omniscient entity that's also inside everyone's mind. So the entity can hear what everyone's thinking and communicate to them in their own minds. And it seems like the entity works more so for the elders, but then after the elder dies, it's unclear why that entity would want to lower the security system and basically endanger everyone's lives. So even just in explaining that, there are a lot of elements there that I was excited about and thought could have a lot of merit, but this just ended up being way too long. It desperately needed an editor. I just didn't like it. I found myself, even when there were twists and turns and these huge revelations happening, I was just sort of like, all right, let's keep this rig rolling, you know? Like, it didn't have, I think, what was probably the desired effect on me as the reader. So I didn't like it. Next is You Let Me In by Camilla Bruce. This is a young adult horror, which I think I've talked about before on the channel, and in hindsight, I think I maybe revealed a little bit too much about it, because in revisiting the synopsis, it does not discuss the points that I did in my video. So I apologize to anyone who watched that video and felt like I spoiled it a little bit. So this time I'm going to stick more closely to the printed synopsis, so as not to spoil it for anyone else. But this is about a woman named Cassandra Tipp. She dies and leaves a manuscript for her like niece and nephew to find, and she basically is like, you can inherit my fortune if you read through my whole life story and like my truth, because throughout her entire life there has been death surrounding her. So her husband was found disemboweled and the mystery of his death was never solved, and then her father and brother were victims of a murder-suicide. I can't remember who was the murderer. Anyway, basically there's just like these really gruesome deaths happening around her and they go unsolved. So she's sort of been demonized her whole life and been made out to be, you know, either this murderer or this cursed person. So really her dying wish is just for someone to read her truth, even if they don't believe it, just to read her manuscript, read her truth, and that's basically what this book is. So I don't really like magical realism, or actually, I guess that's not totally accurate. I guess I should say I'm pretty picky about magical realism, and this definitely has magical realism elements. That's kind of all I'll say synopsis-wise. I think I was just disappointed by this, mostly because I was unfairly expecting it to be more adult horror, and it did come off as more YA. I guess I don't actually know if it was YA, but that's definitely how it read. But this isn't one where I would like dissuade you from reading it. I think if you're interested, you could give it a try, but for me, it was a no-go. Number 7 is 10 Days in a Madhouse by Nellie Bly. I just talked about this a couple videos ago. So this is nonfiction. This is about a journalist named Nellie Bly who went undercover in New York City in the Women's Lunatic Asylum on Blackwell's Island. So this is her account of basically pretending to be insane and what she did to get herself admitted into the hospital. And then she spent 10 days recording the widespread abuse and neglect that she witnessed on this island in this asylum. While I do recognize that this reporting that she did was groundbreaking because she, you know, was a woman, and this was in like the late 1800s. So like I love a groundbreaking diva, but I unfortunately just have to look at this from a reader's perspective. And as a reader, I did not find this to be very well written. I didn't find it to be very compelling or illuminating. It felt very surface level and like a very superficial account of what happened. It almost felt like this was like someone heard someone else talking about this woman he heard at this asylum. It felt very far removed from the actual events, and I think that's exactly the opposite of what it was trying to do. However, I do plan to keep this copy, mostly because I accidentally spilled coffee on it. My mom gifted this to me, and I also incidentally saw a show where a band called Nellie Bly played, so I got all of them to sign my copy of this book. So it's sort of been transformed into a different thing for me, and I will be keeping it, but I don't like what's written herein. Next is The Insatiable Hunger of Trees by Samantha Eaton. This for sure is YA horror. We're following a 17-year-old protagonist named Kara, and her life is thrown into turmoil because her sister, who has been missing for a year, returns home. So obviously, at first, her family's like super stoked. We can't believe you're alive, thank God. But then her sister, Shelby, starts acting really weird, very cagey, very, some might even say, animalistic and monstrous. And then all of a sudden, bodies are starting to turn up in the woods where Shelby disappeared. And they are like up. So then Kara starts to have these weird visions, and she teams up with a boy at her school who claims to be from a long line of monster hunting families. and they try to figure out what the heck's going on. Okay, let me give some pros. This took place in the winter and definitely felt very wintry, so I liked that there was a clear feeling of a setting in time and place. Honestly, that might be it. Yeah, again, I think this was kind of more my own fault for expecting too much out of a young adult horror novel. Number 5 is The Beggar Student by Osamu Dazai, and this was translated by Sam Bett. I need you to know that it's probably edited out, but I just had to attempt to say Osamu Dazai's name perhaps 7 different times before successfully saying it. I'm struggling today. I have never read anything by Osamu Dazai. I know that No Longer Human is his most popular publication, perhaps. Never read the novel, but I did read Junji Ito's adaptation of it. Didn't really care for it. So I don't know why I had such high hopes for this one, but this was just like, I rarely give books 1 star because usually I DNF before it can even get to that point. I don't let things escalate to that point. But this was so short. It's like a really short novella. So I think I just read it in one sitting and I was just like, okay. Very, very underwhelming. Okay, now I feel bad because I am rereading the synopsis and I am reminded of the fact that this is sort of autofiction. Because it's about a fictional writer in his 30s named Osamu Dazai, and he just mailed his publisher a manuscript, but he feels like it's really terrible, so he's like feeling very downtrodden and like ashamed of what he wrote. And like, here I am years later, this nobody on the internet, just absolutely roasting the out of this literary titan. But who cares? It's my YouTube channel and I'll do what I want. So this fictional writer meets a high school dropout while he's walking along the river, and they get into this sort of like intellectual spat and then end up spending the whole day together. I don't know, I just feel like I didn't connect with either of the characters. I didn't understand the point. I don't know, maybe it's just like too different from how I experience the world. And I find that the writing that I like the best is the type that can write about someone who on the surface looks like they should be so different from me and experience the world so differently, but there's something about how the author wrote them that makes me feel connected to them and sort of makes me feel like, oh, we kind of all are the same at the end of the day, floating on this little speck in the infinite galaxies of the universe, you know? And I understand that it's a very like selfish, maybe narcissistic perspective to expect all literature to make me feel connected to the main character in some way. That's not the point I'm trying to make. I don't think Osamu Dazai needed to write all of his books like that, but that's just the kind of stuff that I enjoy reading, and it's difficult for me to care about a character if I can't connect with them in some way, whether that's loving them or hating them. So that's why it's number 5 on my list. Number 4 is Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again by Shigeru Kayama, translated by Jeffrey Angles. So these are 2 novellas that were basically adaptations of the original Godzilla films. This was another book club pick. My brother-in-law is obsessed with kaiju, and I don't fault him for that because they are very cool. But I just found that novelizations of films are almost never successful. I don't really know why people do it. It must be like a cash grab. But either way, Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again, no exception to that rule that I just made up. A lot of the dialogue and like the sound effects were just so cheesy and like almost laughable. So really, book club was just us making fun of the book the whole time, and then we were like, do you guys just want to watch the Godzilla movies instead? And then we just watched the movies. So yeah, I think if you aren't familiar with Godzilla and you're intrigued or you're interested, just go watch the movies, dog. Like, don't read this for sure. Cannot recommend this. Yeah, I don't think you should read it. Number 3 is Mother-Daughter Murder Night by Nina Simon. This is about a grandmother, mother, and daughter trio who are trying to solve a murder, and this was described as Gilmore Girls but with murder. I don't know, I think I'm just so burnt out on murder mysteries and like murder thrillers. So again, I was probably starting off on the wrong foot with this one, but I just found the characters to be written in such a cheesy, like not even one note, because I do feel like there were a couple characters that were pretty well developed, but I was just like, you are the cheesiest person. Like, I'm not confident that that person actually would exist in the world. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like there was a lack of depth, but there was just like a lack of believability. I found myself like rolling my eyes at so much of the dialogue. I mean, I've never watched Gilmore Girls, so I have like a very rudimentary understanding of the characters. But I think it's like the sort of hapless single mom, and then like the overachieving daughter, and then the mother who's sort of like rich and out of touch and doesn't want to be called grandma because she doesn't want to be made to feel old, that kind of thing. Again, feel free to correct me. But that's sort of an outsider's understanding of what Gilmore Girls is like. And I think those are literally the archetypes that this author used for crafting these characters. And obviously Gilmore Girls is very successful, so I'm assuming that show wrote those characters in a more successful way than this book did. Because yeah, the grandma was just very like, I don't want to celebrate holidays because I'm a high achieving realtor. I wear stilettos even though I'm 65. Don't call me grandma. I'm strong. And like, again, I'm all for a strong woman, but it just felt very like performative. I don't know. It's almost like the characters were like trying to convince you that that's what they were like without actually being like that. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but I just didn't like this book. I guess, should I maybe tell you more about the mystery? Okay, this is in the synopsis, so I can tell you this. The high achieving career woman grandma is diagnosed with cancer, which forces her to go live with her daughter and granddaughter while she is receiving treatment / recovering. Okay, yeah, and then the daughter finds a dead body while she's kayaking or like leading a kayak tour. So that kicks it off, and they try to figure out what the heck happened. And the whole time I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. You guys could all die and I wouldn't care. So it's my fault. I shouldn't read these books. So, okay, number 2 is Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata, translated by Ginny Tapley Takemori. I felt indifferent about Convenience Store Woman. I loved Earthlings, and now, as you may have guessed from the video title, I hated Vanishing World. So Vanishing World is, I think, Sayaka Murata's first venture into like full-fledged speculative fiction. So her other two are more grounded in reality. This one is like a dystopian. In this world, instead of reproducing and having children in the ways that we typically do nowadays in our present time, it's considered like disgusting and taboo for married people to have sex. It's like equated to incest in this world. And instead, it's like everyone is IVF. So whether or not you can have a child, it's almost like a lottery system, and it's men and women can sign up to be a vessel for having a baby. But then even once you have a baby, it's more like the community that you live in raises the children, like the children belong to everyone. But the main character carries this shame throughout her life because she was born because her mom and dad had sex and had her. So she feels like she was literally born out of like incest based on this world's definition. So she feels really ashamed, but her mom still has really old-fashioned views about childbirth. So when our main character gets married to a man, her mom keeps being like, you should just have a baby with him, whatever. And she's like, no, that's gross. So then her and her husband both sign up to be candidates to be fertilized or whatever. And they both are selected, but then her fertilization doesn't work and her husband's does. The main character really starts to spiral after her husband is successfully fertilized and hers fails. Love reading about people spiraling. I love reading about a weird setting, time and place. Sure, but I just didn't like how this was written. I didn't like the characters, and honestly the ending for me is just like what really was so offensive to me. I'm not gonna spoil it, but definitely look up content warnings. Really hated the ending. I didn't understand either. Like, I'm all for people and characters in books doing messed up, awful, terrible things. But if it doesn't make sense, or it's not like making some sort of point or commentary, it just sort of feels like violence for the sake of violence, and I don't like that. So I really did not like The Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata, and I don't recommend it. Okay guys, my worst book of 2025, you might have guessed it. It was a book club pick, and it was my pick. So again, I feel like I've been bashing our book club so much, but we all pick terrible books. So my number 1 worst book of the year is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. Some of you on this internet told me this was good, and I got my eye on you. This was not good. People who say they love this book, I don't get it. This book is so long, as you can see. It's multimedia, so there's like newspaper clippings, emails, blog posts, old magazine articles, all sprinkled throughout. Really had high hopes for this one, and this felt like I was being dragged by the neck while I was laying on the ground to get through this. And it was me laying on the ground and me dragging myself because I just needed to get this done for book club. So really in this, we're following the Cordova family. Specifically, Ashley Cordova is found dead in an abandoned warehouse in Manhattan. And she's the daughter of this renowned cult, sort of like underground, really mysterious film director named Stanislav. Her death is ruled a suicide, but this investigative journalist, Scott, suspects otherwise. And he previously wrote an article about Stan Cordova, I think like insinuating that he was getting up to some not so great deeds with children. But it was like he was lured into writing that article by someone who claimed to have previously worked with Stan Cordova, and then basically because he wrote this article, published it without really enough evidence, he fell from grace as a journalist. So now he thinks that if he can report on Ashley's death and figure out what actually happened to her, he might be able to, like, I don't know, regain his honor or something. But then while he's investigating, he teams up with this random guy he finds at the warehouse where she died, who I think was like a drug dealer. Then this young girl, probably like 19, 20. So this trio of people who are related to the case in some way are trying to figure out what actually happened to Ashley. And they have to like go deep into the underworld of Cordova's life and films and all that. This freaking book is almost 600 pages. Did not need to be this long. I did not care for Scott, the main character. Did not need to be reading from his point of view for 600 pages, let me tell you that much. No guys, I don't think this is good. I don't think you should read it. I feel like if in 600 pages Marisha Pessl couldn't communicate to me why this book is good, then it might just not be very good. So those were the worst books I read in 2025. Comparing these books to the books from my previous iterations of this video, so my worst books of 2023, 2024, I do think I have really found my stride in terms of finding books that I know I'm going to like. I think there are less books that I read each year that really upset me or disappoint me in some way, because I've gotten better at finding books that I know I'm actually gonna like, and I will DNF with ruthless abandon, okay? I am constantly haunted by the fact that I will never be able to read all of the books I want to read in my lifetime. So why would I waste time on a book that is boring to me? The majority of these books were ones that I felt obligated to finish for a book club or some other reason. So honestly, as much as I bitched and moaned in this video, I'm honestly pretty happy with that. So you can like this video if you want, comment, let me know if you've read any of these books. Did you love them? Did you hate them? I would genuinely love to hear from you. So let me know. You could watch my other videos, you could subscribe, and I'll see you in whatever video I make next. Bye!